to the show!
No, put one of the crew guys in the cab. That's great. Sent him down to Bellevue. He came back with 4 straight jackets. It says Bellevue on the straight jacket. So like 7th floor, Bellevue.
That's a trip.
Some guys like running around. They took him right off of Crazy People. They did. Yeah.
That's funny.
But that's what happened that day. It was
Crazy shit.
crazy shit, man. We got a million of them.
It says 18 albums.
That's how many I did.
Yeah, which ones? I know you know
From
offhand.
1974. Well, no, well from Alive.
From
I
Alive.
didn't do the first 3.
All right.
They were done by like the record company. So when they put out their live album, they asked me to do it. Because I was sitting right there in the office. So maybe this guy can do it. So I did a live, and you know that was a double album and everything. So there was a lot of thought went into it. You know, put those little handwritten notes in there and all that stuff. It was like the first time we did a big deal production for them, you know. So I think that they really, and it was also the first album that they did that went gold. So when it went gold, they came back and said, "Will you do our next album?" Right?
Sure.
So I think that's how they kind of got to like me.
You did the originals and all that.
So I did, yeah, the originals. I forgot about that one. That was a collection thing.
Now they did one for like Japan, the originals too, but that wasn't.
I don't even know what that looks like.
It's just almost the same as originals. The flame. They used your backdrop, and they have like cartoon. Yeah, like a cartoon image of them popping out of the flame.
Who did that? Some Japanese company.
Oh, see, they did that. Yeah.
I never even saw it.
Now, would you consider doing another cover for them?
I would. Somebody asked me that in a magazine interview, and I said, sure, I love it. I think they're a great band to design for, you know? They're so visual, as long as they keep the makeup on. If they take it off, then to me they're another rock band.
Well, I think that Kiss is going to stay the way it is now.
Right now, yeah. This will be it forever, right?
I hope so.
I think so. I hope so.
I mean, I respect every member that's been in the band. Some I don't, you know, but this is Kiss.
This is Kiss, right here. Yeah, these guys. Right.
No, well, Alive too. It says your name. It says cover and inside sleeve, inner sleeve. So that wasn't the picture. The gatefold, was that the gatefold on Alive 2 or just the inner sleeve with the hands, with the confetti falling?
Is that what we did?
Alive 2.
See, I forget.
Alive 2, it said...
just the hands going up like that?
On the inner sleeve for the record.
Just cover an inner sleeve design?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it says? What does the inside look like?
It looks like the stage with all the flames blowing up and the platforms rise.
I did the whole album. I did every single
See, that's why they should give credit where credit's due.
It's this album design, it means the whole album.
Oh, all right.
And the inner sleeve. So,
all right.
I guess that does include the...
Oh, all right, all right.
Yeah. A little vague, I guess.
Now, this would have been for Dynasty?
Well, we weren't going to... No, this was a spur-of-the-minute idea.
Just for a magazine, or...?
Yeah, well, you know, when you're hiring an expensive photographer, and you plan to spend a whole day there,
right?
And you say, we're going to shoot the cover, and then we're going to shoot other pictures.
Right, because you're paying for it anyway.
We're here, right. We always need new pictures, right? For magazines, for all kinds of reasons, for posters, in-store promotion. So when we were there, I knew what I wanted to do for Dynasty, which is the way it came out.
Right.
I went there with that idea in my head. I said, put your heads together. Let's have all the hair melt together so the pictures
it does.
And just have the faces coming out of all that hair. That's what we did.
Plus the poster you did, right?
Right.
For the inside of the album.
Right. Oh yeah, I like that poster.
Yeah, very cool poster. That's the first poster I think I got.
Tasty. Pretty tasty. Now I have one at home that's not folded, which I better frame one of these days. So it's messed up. I wish I had a stack of those.
No, yeah.
But then one of these guys or somebody said, let's put them in straitjackets, and so we sent out, we got straitjackets. You know, so that was the first moment I did.
See, so when they hire a photographer, do they keep the negatives after, or you as the photographer, you do?
We keep them.
Right, and you sell the pictures, or how does that work?
Well,
the business end of it, I mean.
I was the art director for the advertising agency.
Oh, all right.
And we did all their advertising. I did a lot of their merchandising too. Not all of it because they had merchandising people. But I did a lot of their T-shirts, all the tour books.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of the advertising. You see Cream and Rolling Stones advertising the next album.
Albums and stuff. Huh.
A lot of this stuff isn't in history either. Well, this photo is.
Yeah, because they don't have it. Because I kept some. I kept it. My picture's in history. Did you see it? With Ken Kelly, right?
I have it, yeah.
Yeah, Ken Kelly. He's the guy I hired to do Love Gun and Destroy.
Now Barry Levine did a lot of photography on.
He's still now. They hired him again to do more. I see.
That's what I heard.
A lot of their latest stuff.
That's what I heard.
I worked with Barry on one day, one photo shoot. We did about 3 different shots.
Now, how
It was
would
a disaster. We spent half the day shooting one set, had these guys in a white set, and nothing came out.
Oh, that's no good.
That was a bummer.
No, these guys were crazy when they showed up, or hammered, or drugged, or
This guy doesn't drink or do anything.
right. That
He doesn't hardly do anything. Maybe a white wine or something.
Right.
So he's never drunk. And these 2 guys are completely off the wall.
they were off of the wall every time.
Especially this guy.
My favorite, yeah, Ace.
Especially Ace.
Oh man.
He showed up for a photo shoot. You never knew what was going to happen. What they did here?
Well, this is a reprint.
Yeah, and they knocked out. Like who designed it and all that stuff. Management or coin.
That's a reprint. I think this stuff.
There's some of the pictures. Well, they left me in anyway, right?
Well, that's good.
Yeah. This guy, Fritz, he was the tour manager at that time.
Yeah.
He had like scars on his arms. He was walking across the stage one day and his flash box went off by accident. It was all burnt.
Oh,
Really?
brutal.
Accidents all over the place, yeah. He got hurt pretty bad. Ari had an affair with her.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Can I get a photo?
Huh?
Can I get a photo?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm not sure how to work these. These are one of these dumb
Throwaways?
throwaway deals.
Let me have a look at it, maybe I know.
It's gonna
You're responsible for the whole look of the whole thing, you know, sometimes even the concept of the album. A lot of times these guys came to me, they said, we're coming out with an album, it's coming out in September, we have to have it printed in August, start working. I'd say, what's the title? I don't know. What's the idea, guys? I don't know. You know.
Well, and at that time, a lot of you are probably too young to know, but at that time they were putting albums out every 6 months, not every 2 years.
That's right.
Kiss was putting 2 albums out a year.
2 albums a year. They have to record them, promote them, be on tour, and
Write them.
Write them. So it was a busy time, but it was a great time.
Does anyone have a question specifically for Dennis that they could think of? Okay. Come on down! Which Kiss album artwork is Dennis most proud of? Least proud of?
Least proud of?
That's easy.
That's easy. I don't have one that I hate, but the one I like the most is Creatures of the Night. Just because it's simple and you know, it's like a pure idea. These guys are nocturnal creatures. They had the title. They came to me with the title that time, Creatures of the Night. I went through a long process of trying to come up with an album cover for that. I went down many roads. I did a lot of layouts. The most common visual theme I had were they were standing around in the swamp. There were bats. There was creatures crawling around, you know, in the murky, muddy, swampy background. But it was too, at that point in my mind, it was too cartoony, too comic bookish. So I wanted to elevate them up and give them some, a little more sophistication for a change.
Is that a painting or a photo?
That is a photograph completely, except for the eyes, which are airbrushed to make them look like they're glowing, like nocturnal creatures of the night. And we shot it, we just put blue gels over lights, and that's how it came out. I tried a lot of things. I even put white makeup on a month before that shoot on my own face, went to a photographer. We shot it with like the wrong kind of film to make it look blue. We tried blue lights. We did all different techniques. We found out that blue lights worked the best. So that a month later, when I got the guys in front of the camera, instead of screwing around for hours trying something, I wanted to be ready. And we had the blue gels on the lights, and boom, it worked.
So you're saying that those are 4 individual shots?
Nope.
No, they were that close
No,
together?
we sat them down. They had like little apple boxes and little chairs like this. And Diana Ross was at that shoot.
And what was she doing?
She was going out with Gene. She was going out with Gene. She was like 3 feet away, you know. So if you look at the album, look like 3 feet to your left in your mind's eye.
She was right there?
Right
Was
there.
she singing Supremes tunes? Or?
No. I did a duet with her.
What'd you sing?
Some old 50s doo-wop song that she remembered.
Yeah?
I was drunk. Otherwise I wouldn't have the balls.
Today you wouldn't do that duet.
I would not do it today.
You have a lot of interesting photos over there with you with Kiss. Is that what did you do? Did you have a picture taken of yourself every time you did a Kiss photo?
Yeah, you know, it was like I realized that it was an exciting time. Actually, I kind of felt like I was being part of history as it was being created. I really felt it at that time. I didn't take it for granted. Like I really was excited about it. I knew that these guys were a big deal, or would become a big deal in the beginning. And so when we took shots, I used to whisper in the photographer's ear, "Save the last 3 pieces of
That's
film
not what I heard. I
for
heard
me."
you to say, "Save the last dance for me."
No.
That's what it was.
No. So I was married.
You were drunk though.
I was married and drunk. So I'd say, "Save the last 3 shots for me," and then I'd go there and I'd remind them, and then I'd go up to the guys and I'd say, "Do you mind?" And they never said no, and that was it. That was it. So I have a lot of pictures like that, and I'm happy I did it now. At the time, it took a little bit of balls, because it was like, you know, they were all working, and it was hard to say, you know, stop everything and let's take some pictures with me. But I'm glad I did it now, because now I got the pictures.
Were you at the photo session for the first live album, Kiss Alive?
No, I don't even know where that was shot.
Oh, you
As
don't
a
know.
matter of fact,
The
Finn
great-
Costello.
The great photographer Finn Costello shot
Finn
that.
Costello.
And it is a posed shot, right, as far as you know?
Absolutely has to be. Ace is standing there with his guitar all backwards, and they're all just, you know, anytime you see Peter Criss with his drumsticks like this, it's posed, because you don't drum like that. And besides, the drummer's always way in the background. You never get a good shot of him. You're lucky if you can get 3 guys looking good in one photo. Forget the 4th guy, you're never going to see him.
Still the greatest live cover of all time.
A great cover, and it was a great album. Finn delivered the picture to me, and I said, almost jokingly, "So that's a live shot, Finn?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, come on, you posed him." He said, No, fine." Okay.
Yes.
How'd the whole concept for the Destroyer album come up?
Destroyer,
That cover.
I'll tell you the truth. The guys didn't even have a title. That was one of those times where they came to me, they said, "We're coming out with a new album, start thinking." So I know that Gene is a big comic book, sci-fi, fan. He likes all that kind of stuff. Are you familiar with Frank Frazetta, the artist? Anybody know who that is? He's a guy who painted, he invented Conan the Barbarian, those old comic books. He's the best artist of that genre, that type. Motley Crue.
He invented Motley Crue.
He invented
There you go. Oh, Molly Hatchet. That makes
Oh,
sense.
okay, thank you. And he has this painter has a lot of imitators out there. A guy named Boris. You might know his imitators more than you know the original guy. So we got to talking, and Gene said it would be great if I can get him to do a cover. And I said, "Oh, it really would be great." So I called up this guy, Frazetta, who lives in Pennsylvania, and I tried to make a deal with him. Turns out his wife is his agent. It was a big pain in the ass. It was really hard to do this. I said, "I want Frank to paint the Kiss cover." They didn't know who Kiss was. They never heard of him, you know.
Were the comic books out yet on Marvel?
No.
No, this is prior to that.
This is prior. This is still pretty early, you know. It's
It's
before
76?
Destroyer, yeah.
76?
Yeah. So I couldn't get him. He wanted a lot of money. He wanted $15,000. And that was in 76.
That's what,
$15,000, and he wanted to keep the painting when it was done. We could just shoot it, use it for the cover, and give it back to him, and not use it for anything but the album cover. That was the deal. And I said, no deal. They want to own the art. They want to put it on lunchboxes. I mean, they want to do it, you know, they want to use it for everything. So we have to buy it out. We have to buy all the rights for it, which is what I always tried to do to avoid bookkeeping, you know. So, and arguments and lawsuits. So, no deal. We couldn't make a deal with them. So I started searching around for a Frazetta lookalike. And I was buying all these comic books and racking my brain. And I found this one comic book, creepy comic book, and it was a robot. And it's just like the painting style. It looked like a lot like Frazetta. So I looked up this guy, found his name. He was getting like $100 to do these comic book covers. So I think we paid him $5 grand or 3,500 or 5,000. I just don't remember.
What was it?
Might have been 3,500 for Destroyer, and then later when he did Love Gun, I think we gave him 5,000.
What was his name?
Ken Kelly. Ken Kelly, and he was great, and he was a really good worker, and he delivered. And the big funny weird coincidence is, turns out he's Frank Frazetta's cousin.
Must be in the family. The genes must run in the
I
family.
don't know how that happened, but or his uncle maybe. And he wanted to be just like Uncle Frank, and so he painted like him.
That's funny.
So that's how that happened. Oh, and the title, my friend Vinny, who was the assistant art director, who sat behind me in the drawing table behind me, is my lifelong friend from third grade, 9 years old. And we had to come up with a title because these guys, Kiss, did not have a title for that album. So Vinny made a list of words, and one of the words was Destroyer. And they saw it, and they said, that's the title.
Did Vinny get credit for that?
Vinny got Lugats, if you know what that means.
Do you think today Gene would admit that Vinny came up with Destroyer?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Gene would say, I came up with the title. And
You say Dennis was drunk.
Dennis was drunk. Right. So, the visual, the picture, and how that looks, that was mine, that was my concept. I was standing on chairs and tables, and I made Ken Kelly sit on the floor, and I said, look at me, look up at me, like this. I want them to look like this, and they got to be bigger than life, because at the time, this was a brand new no rock band was really doing this. I said, they're bigger than life, they're superheroes, they're unbelievable, they're bigger than Superman, and I said, and that's the point of view I want. You're nothing, and we are great. And so that's what he did, with the destroyed city, or whatever the hell it is behind them. We don't know.
And what came after that?
I don't know.
Rock and roll. What about Rock and Roll Over? That's some great artwork there. In fact, every group today now uses that artwork and sticks their name in it.
It's really graphic and simple and bright and clean and crisp, and it'll last forever. That guy's Michael Dorette.
Oh,
Michael Dorette never did an album cover in his life, and I used to love to hire people who had nothing to do with rock and roll to do rock and roll covers. Same thing with the solo album guy. He was an old man. He didn't know what rock and roll was, but I made him do it. It's great. I'm really happy I did that, But Michael Dorette did the Rock and Roll Over. He did Time magazine covers.
He did Zardoz.
Who?
Zardoz.
Did he do Zardoz?
The movie, Sean Connery's sci-fi movie. He did that logo.
That looks like his lettering.
I carried it around in my wallet because he did the Stars logo.
He was a great letterer. He did all that lettering by hand. Is this thing?
Mine doesn't do that.
I don't know if you know anything about printing or reproduction, but he didn't do that album, Rock and Roll Over, in color. He did it all in black and white on layers of acetate, and they all had to line up perfectly. And each layer of acetate was going to be eventually a different color for the printer. So we designate, this is the blue, this is the yellow, this is light blue, this is like a special green. There were 6 colors instead of 4. Almost all printing is done in 4 colors on a press. This was a special 6-color press, which is like from here to there.
For the album cover?
Yeah.
It must have cost a fortune, huh?
And he did it all on acetate, and they all registered perfectly. The guy was like a mechanical genius besides being creative.
Had he ever heard of Kiss?
Nope. That was my joy in being an art director. I used to love to take these disparate people, bring them together, I had a lot of fun. And I went on a press check. When they printed that album cover, it was like 3 in the morning in Farmingdale, Long Island, and they used to call me at odd hours and come out and make sure the thing was running right,
At 3 in the morning, you'd have to drive out to Farmingdale?
They sent a car for me, which was nice, and went out there. It was like an hour,
wow,
at least. And it was, because the presses don't stop. There's big, expensive pieces of machinery. They run them 24 hours a day. So I got out there, and the job sucked. They were running it bad. It was coming out really bad. And I said, we spent a lot of money on this. So I went, no, and I walked away.
Were they also printing the sticker on the inside?
Not at that time, but that was done right around then, obviously. Remember that sticker inside that came apart?
So what did you make them do? Just throw those out and do it?
I said, I had to stand there. I told the guy it was no good, and they said, no, this is good enough. And I said, no, it isn't. And it was like all these suits, all the guys in the suits.
They're working at 3 in the morning, too.
Yeah,
Were they drunk?
Management, they were all drunk. No, they weren't. So what I had to do, I had to be like a detective, and I said, well, if the red is affecting this plate and the pink is affecting the blue plate, then this is that, and I was there for half an hour, and I said, okay, and I knew what plate was wrong. I said, you got to make this plate over again, the turquoise plate. And the guy said, like Alexa Hente, and he walked away, and they made the turquoise plate over, and it came out like beautiful. But I was lucky that I knew enough about printing. A lot of art directors don't, but I've been around a long time, and I picked up a lot. And so, and it came out great.
It did, yeah. And the sticker was printed when?
I don't know. I don't know. It was printed by a different printer.
The sticker was actually cooler than the album cover.
It was printed by a different guy, and like a lot of those special little gifts they used to stick inside, they were manufactured elsewhere. The record company didn't want anything to do with that stuff, you know. It was like, too expensive.
So it's really changed a lot seeing this stuff on CD and having it 4x5 or whatever. It just doesn't have the same feeling.
Albums were like pieces of art. You could sit there and prop them up.
Cardboard.
You sort of stare at them while you were listening to the record, right? I mean, I did.
I did. I used to be able to read them then. Now I can't read them.
You used to be able to read them, right?
Too small. Okay, any other questions for Dennis Woloch?
Yeah, how did you get in?
Talk forever.
How did you get into the business of
How did you get into the business?
Well,
Which business are you talking about?
art director?
Art director or rock and roll?
Photography, art director.
okay.
Yeah, and then into rock and roll.
So you got into art first, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, I was an art director first, and then fell into the rock and roll thing. But
Explain to them about Howard Marks. Does anyone? Howard Marks actually managed them for a period of time, and Dennis really hooked up with Howard at first.
oh yeah. Want me to go back to kindergarten where the Mother Superior put the star? on
You
there?
could start around 3rd grade. Thank you.
Well, I was an artist. I always wanted to be a graphic designer and an art director, probably in advertising, I figured. So when I got out of school, that's what I became. And I went to work for this guy, Howard Marks, who had an agency, an advertising agency, and I became his art director. And, you know, Bill Aucoin, before he got into the managing rock and roll, was a director of television commercials. That's what he did. He was like a filmmaker, TV, commercial director. So we used to make commercials, and we used to know Bill Aucoin because he was like directing some of them. And he sort of got out of that business. He wanted to go on his own and start his own production company making TV commercials. He sublet office space from my boss because they knew each other. So now Bill is in our office down the hall. His friend Sean Delaney, who's not here today, I give credit to discovering Kiss. In those days, Kiss used to play like these rundown hotels. They used to like rent the ballroom and put up posters around town and say free concert, and they'd play for nothing. But instead of playing in like some shitty, dingy bar, they already had these highfalutin ideas, and they'd be playing in ballrooms.
They weren't wearing the Kiss makeup.
Yes,
yet.
they were.
Yeah, they were.
Yes, they were. But it was all very like 2 pairs of ladies' black nylons.
He didn't have the star quite yet, right?
No, he was a raccoon.
Yeah. It still is, I
He's
heard.
still a raccoon. So they had these big ideas. I give them a lot of credit. They never thought small. They always thought big. And they had these, and they were in these ballrooms. So Sean caught their act one night. He came to Bill. He said, "You got to see these guys." He knew Bill had connections. Bill went down to see him, loved him. Bill knew Neil Bogart, who had owned a record company called Casablanca. It was brand new.
Brand new label.
Brand new label. So he called. He told the guys in Kiss. He said, "If I don't get you a record deal in 2 weeks, you can forget about me. And if I do, I'm your manager." And they said, "Deal." He got them the record contract, and he became their manager. So that's how Bill became their manager, and that's how I got to know them, because Bill's office was right down the hall. So they did their first 3 without me. Was I guess the record company.
The first 3 album covers?
First 3 albums were done by I don't know who, different people, record company people, and but I was doing like their little posters and stuff, and I was involved, but I wasn't doing covers. Then when it was time to do a live, Bill said, "Want to design the Alive album?" And I said, "Yeah, man, you know." So we did that, and it was a big project, nice fold out. Remember a gatefold album, and
great album cover.
we designed the sleeve. I don't think the first 3 had special sleeves. I think they just had white sleeves. So when I got involved, we really got doing all kinds of special stuff, sticking presents inside and designing the sleeves. You know, by that I mean the inner sleeve, and all that costs money, and that's why record companies don't do it. But Kiss wanted to be special. They put up their own money in a lot of cases to print these extra, goodies. And the thing went gold. It was their first gold record, was Kiss Alive. The first 3 didn't go gold. And I think because it went gold, they let me do all the rest of their album covers for the next, 14 years or something like that.
What's the last album cover that you did?
Did Crazy Nights in 1988.
Crazy Nights.
We broke a mirror, and it was on the floor, and the camera was on a great big ladder shooting straight down, and the way we got their faces in there was we had a picture of them. Just a big picture. We reflected it in the mirror.
Really?
That's it.
And then you photographed all that?
And we had to move all those little pieces of glass like forever and ever all day long. I had it where they were really fractured. I mean, splintered in a million pieces. It looked great. And you saw all these little tiny pieces of their face a million times. And I really liked that one. It looked very violent too, and I liked it. They didn't like it. You know why? Can't see their faces good enough. They were very vain. Very vain. Not only that, but you can see 1/2 of my face in that piece of glass, but you can see 2/3 of his face in the other piece of glass. So I want to see 2/3 of my face in that broken piece of glass. I'm trying to go back and like, you know, is that 2/3? Yeah, that's what you have to deal with sometimes. So sometimes it's creative and sometimes it's a pain in the ass.
Well, they were kind of felt slighted during the makeup years because they weren't recognized when they would walk down the street.
They would say, and it's great. We're rock stars, and we don't have to put up with all that bullshit.
Except they
secretly
really
they're dying inside because they walk down the street and nobody's, you know.
I was in a group called Stars. Some of you people are old enough to remember that.
And I designed their album covers.
Designed all our album covers.
Right, almost.
Well, except for the one we fired him on. He was
Except the lousy ones.
the one lousy one he didn't do. But I was hanging out with Paul. We went to see Cheap Trick, I think it was, yeah. And I was with Jackie Fox from the Runaways. And Jackie and I got mobbed, and next to us was Paul Stanley standing there like this. And I said, hey, that's Paul. And nobody believed me. And that was true, and he really felt bad. I felt bad for him. He was 10 times bigger than us, you know, than me and
that's
Jackie.
when the makeup came off next week.
Then the makeup, that was it. It's a true story. Now everybody knows who he is. Me? No, you? Well, they know who you are, but everyone knows what Paul looks like. Yep.
Any words for someone who wants to get into that career, how you would go about it?
Specifically doing like record
Album
covers?
and...
Well, you know, and you heard how I got in, right? It was like really the back door and just being at the right place at the right time. Because I wasn't necessarily the greatest art director in New York City, you know, but I was in the same office as these guys. But I was good enough. I'll say this for myself, that they kept giving me more work to do. So,
You show them for your portfolio.
however, you should. I mean, are you interested in art, in design, and graphic art?
Well, my girlfriend is.
Yeah, she should go to a really good art school and try to get in and put in that, you know, put in the time, right? That's what you got to do. That's number one. And you know what the good art schools are. I mean, you know, there's a few.
And be in the right place at the right time.
And then be in the right place at the right time.
Which is what life is all about.
A lot of it is luck. I would do Kiss again, especially with their makeup on. Makeup off. Another band, to me. That's what made them exciting, graphically, visually exciting.
You talked about you did work with the Creatures of the Night album cover. I'm sorry. You mentioned that you did work on the Creatures of the Night album cover. Yeah. Did you notice anything weird at that time? Seeing that was Ace Frehley's last album cover.
You're asking if there was any weirdness going on between them during the Creatures of the Night album cover photo session.
They kept it pretty well hidden.
Now, Peter was basically almost out. Or, I'm sorry, he was out.
He was out.
He was actually out. He didn't actually play on that album.
No.
And neither did Ace. Ace played a little bit.
I think Ace played a little bit. I don't know too much about who played on the session, but they kept their animosities between themselves pretty quiet. I didn't see a lot of it. I really didn't. I just heard about it, but I never saw it.
Because during Dynasty was really when the blowout started.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, but I didn't see it again.
How do you feel when they changed the Creatures album cover?
Well, when I saw that, I couldn't figure out why they did it, and I guess it's something with the. Do you know why?
You talking about the reissue? The reissue of Creatures of the Night had. I've never seen. Oh yeah, I guess I have seen it. Right.
It's just a picture of them with like a rooftops and scene behind them, and I don't know why they did it.
It's a different guitarist.
Different guitarist, and so there was a contractual thing.
Did he actually play on that album? Does anyone even know that?
I have no idea.
No one really knows.
He says no.
No, he didn't.
Oh, Bruce is on that.
Bruce is on
That's
the
right.
cover.
I was thinking they put it in.
He said they wanted to sell more copies of the album. Actually, it was three different ones. One more copy.
Oh, there is?
I think it's back to the makeup though, isn't it? Right? Yeah, right.
Supposedly, yeah.
Which one's that?
I think they came back to the original cover now.
The CD reissue?
I think so.
Yeah, they did.
I heard they had him on the cover.
Is that right?
Recently. That's the fourth cover. All right, if there's any other questions, if not, Dennis, we have one question right here.
How was Ace? Sorry, I remember.
Ace was very funny, usually a little, happy, and sometimes way too happy.
if you get my drift.
Well, Dennis is going to be stationed back at his poster spot.
I'll tell you one story about Ace at a photo session. We were shooting a picture for what, I don't know, I think it was just like publicity. There's a building downtown New York called 123 John Street, and it has, in the lobby of the building looks like the interior of a spaceship. It has these neon tubes that line the hallways. So if you stand in these hallways, there are white hallways and there's blue neon tubes. So we took Ace down to do his fantasy picture. At the time we did all these other fantasy pictures, where Eric is hanging on the gate, that one, and Gene has the volcano blowing up.
Is this elder time period?
I don't know, like, man, yeah, okay, I don't know. Unmasked.
Unmasked time period?
I see these guys remember better than I do. I don't know. So, and Ace got his trailer outside, and we had these robots in there, and space and guns and ray guns and stuff. And okay, Ace, time for your shoot. And he comes out, with a bottle of Dom Perignon in one hand, hands it off to somebody, stands in front of the camera. I said, you got to be really, really still for these shots, because we can't use flash, because if we use flash, the neon effect is not good. So we have to just like open the lens of the camera for a quarter of a second, very slow, but it comes out great. So you got to be still, Ace. Okay, Curly. Called everybody Curly, right? Hey, talk like that. So he had his little gun, and he'd pose, but he couldn't stand still. He couldn't stand still. He's like weaving. So we have a lot of blurry pictures of Ace in this situation. And then finally, I said, turn around like you're going to shoot that robot with your gun. So he turns around and he goes, and he smashes about 3 tubes of neon flying all over the place. He laughs like a maniac, goes back into his trailer, never saw him again. And that was the end of the photo shoot.
Did you get any?
We got like a roll. We had like 9 assistants, generators, 2 photographers, me, makeup people, costume people. It was like a movie set. Ace laughs, disappears, never seen him again.
Did you get anything usable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1.
What's it in?
You'll see it. It's on that poster. Somebody probably has it here. There's 4 shots, each guy in his fantasy. Just Peter with his green shit hanging on.
Oh, the furry thing?
Yeah, the furry thing, I think. Paul's got the roses, I think, in the girl's hands. I think.
The gloves, the little glove shot.
Yeah. And Gene is with the volcano, I think, blowing up in the background.
Right.
And then there's Ace in the blue thing. That's the one.
Did you work on the movie?
No, they did that in California. I stayed in New York.
The Phantom movie.
Anthony Zerbe.
Yeah. That was a great movie, huh?
Yeah. It was on recently, wasn't it, I think? Yeah.
I don't know.
This meets the Phantom of the Park.
Got it on videotape, the reissue.
That was pretty bad.
I'd like to thank Dennis for coming down and talking to y'all, and he's going to be hanging out by his posters over there.
I have post. There you go. There's the shot. 123 John
Let's bring
Street,
that up.
lower left.
Bring that up here. Let people see
All
that. The one shot that worked.
The one shot that wasn't too blurry. And a couple of nights later, we took Eric around and shot him. That's Gramercy Park on the fence down there. Eric was a cute kid.
Sale over here.
Okay, thanks again.
I have posters of me with the band in straitjackets. $20.
Signed by Dennis. He's going to be wearing Kiss makeup when he signs that.
Rock and Roll All Night brings you interviews, reviews, concerts, music, and more. So for more Rock and Roll All Night content, click subscribe.